Hi guys, Dan Smith here. Today's video is a remote viewing community chat on the 3rd of March 2023. It contains lots of tips, hints, we talk about methods within remote viewing, and essentially it's a time when the entire remote viewing community comes together, talks about all kinds of topics to do with remote viewing. So it's full of interesting things that you may learn, and it's packed full of great information. I want to thank everyone that shared information on this video. It's fantastic stuff, and it's great to see the community doing this. So enjoy the video. Take care. Namaste.
Hi guys. Hey Don, I just want to give you a shout out. Yeah, that Reaver session, bro. Your connection to Signal is scaring me. I'm not kidding.
That that was an experiment. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why I was getting all this weird data, and I decided I'm just gonna let it play out. This could be a really embarrassing remote viewing session, but I'm just gonna let it roll, and I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens. So, all right, I'm going to try that again next time, and well, that could be the embarrassing section. We'll see.
Yeah, good or bad, I always take a big swing.
Yeah. You need to take chances.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
guys.
David. Yeah.
Just letting a few more people in as they come. We don't really have an agenda for tonight. Let's start off with the new people actually. So for the new people, we just have a general chat and ask questions and all that kind of stuff tonight. We usually do it by putting your hand up using the reactions button, usually at the bottom of the screen. Or if you're a bit shy and you don't want to speak, you can type any questions or any comments or anything like that in the meeting chat window. And at the end of the day, you can also save that chat window for yourself as well. So if there are any links and all that kind of stuff in there, you can keep all those. I did post on Facebook some topics we could kind of talk about if everyone wanted to. And I don't know if we're going to do this, but on Discord, they've been playing around with a technique called cowboy remote viewing. And some of you requested doing something live. So I don't know if any of you wanted to try or go through what they do with the cowboy remote viewing in any way.
I'm here to talk about cowboy later on if people want to do that. It's called cowboy remote viewing because we asked Daz if he wanted to join in, and he said, I'm not doing any of that cowboy shit. So we've kept it as a badge of honor. But we can give that a try later on if people want.
Yeah. So, because some of you did request doing maybe something live actually in the Zoom call. That is something you could try, or someone could try anyway. Or they could, once David and the others show you what they're doing with that kind of cowboy stuff, you could, I don't know, someone could do a demo live here. But yeah, before we go to this stuff that we had in a list on Facebook, is there anything anyone, has any questions or they want to share or anything like that at the moment? Yeah, go for it, Don. Yeah. You're muted at the moment, Don.
Okay, yeah. Can you allow me to share a picture, Daz?
Yeah, sharing should be on for you, Don.
Okay, all right. So let's see. If I click on that and click share. Okay, this was a target that we had in the Rhine remote viewing thing. We get a 20-minute time to do this thing. I actually published some stuff about it on my Facebook. But the thing is, when I perceived this target, I think my point of view was like around here looking this direction. So I clearly saw people standing over here, and I put that. What I failed to put, because I felt rushed, was the fact that I saw like a young woman holding the hands of a child or something walking around in here, and there is somebody like that over here in the middle. But so that perception was right. Okay, that was sort of like a visual. But my next thing was I put down city environment, which is wrong. Now, if you look at these do look like, tall structures, like they could be buildings or skyscrapers or whatever. But I realized afterwards, after I had done this session, that when I saw the people, that was a visual. And what I saw behind them was a feeling. So I just went with the feeling that it's a city environment. Now, my point here is, visuals must be the strongest sort of like perception you can get. And I guess that's pretty accurate. But when you're going with a feeling, don't over embellish it. Don't turn a wall into a city, okay, is my point. It's just, there's a difference between seeing something and feeling something, and really that's what I wanted to share here. It was something that I learned in that session. I think I learned something of value there.
Thanks for that, Don. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
But it does have a kind of, you can see where you got the city kind of vibe from it. People walking in between mammoth structures kind of sensation.
Right, but I could have written wall.
You could.
I could have put standing in front of a wall.
That's why most methods teach you not to identify, to describe.
Yeah.
In as low level detail as possible. So you could have, had hard, vertical, linear,
exactly
structures, and then add walls as AOL or something.
Yeah. Also, I think when you talk about the visual isn't as concrete as you think it is, because it also is dependent on your whole life experiences. And if you were in a jungle, you might see a piece of rope and think it was a snake. If you're on a building site, you might see a snake and think it was a piece of rope. And that happens in real life.
Yeah.
So your visuals aren't actually as concrete as you think they are.
Good point.
We have some hands up, but before we go there, there's a question in the chat already. What is the recommendation for beginner courses? And I don't have any outright recommendations for anyone that wants to look at this, although in, I think, issue 15 of 8 Martinis, and I could put the link in a minute, I did, and it's probably about just over a year ago now, I put that one out. I did interview most of the main trainers on the market at that time in great detail, so that would be a good read to have a look through to make your mind up. But there is so many opportunities out there now with CRV, TRV, SRV, HRVG, my approach, Prudence Calabrese's TDS approach. I don't know if many people are teaching that at the moment though. And there are lots of people doing like freeform approach and several other approaches that are on the Discord forum as well. So there are huge amounts of choice, and it comes down to who yourself as an individual and who you think you're going to get on with and what kind of style you think you're going to get on with, because they range from being very loose to being very organized and controlled. But I definitely recommend the magazine to do research and have a look at what people are doing. And also, if you're in my Facebook group as well, several weeks ago, I started collecting who's doing training courses this year and putting that in a Word document that's for download in the file sections. And it's also got a few details there in there, roughly what they're charging this year and all their links and stuff as well. So that would be another good source. Bear with me, I'm letting some people in. So yeah, while I'm letting a couple of people in here, Dave, you had your hand up first. If you'd like to go next.
Yeah, I think actually it's just in reference to Don's comment. What I don't know which I know Don
you're sorry, Dave. I don't know if the other people are hearing this, but your microphone is really kind of low and
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, I'm getting some distortion out of that as well.
Yes.
Is it better now or
very, very low?
How about
Have you got
closer to the
right
mic?
Selected?
Like you're
Yeah,
talking to
it's
a
kind of like you're
barrel.
talking through a pillow.
Yeah, I wondered if it's accidentally switched to something like your webcam mic instead of your main mic or something.
Hear nothing.
The fun of technical things on Zoom, eh? The amount of times I spend setting up microphones and cameras and stuff on Zoom.
This
All
is
right,
like
is
the,
it-
this is
am I
like the
on?
seance, Daz.
Can you hear me
Are
now?
you hearing me now? Can you feel
Okay.
me?
That's
that
way
better?
better. Way better.
Okay. Sorry, guys, it switched on. All right. So my question, Don, because I know you trained in multiple modalities, so I know you've been. I don't know what you were using, but like when you mentioned city environment, because also it's not like I get wrong information too. But I was curious as to when it came in, because like from my training, like if I get something like city environment, that's a pretty chunky piece of information. So like that, for me, in order to like bite onto that, I would have to get that as like an intangible or a stage 4.5, where the aperture is wide enough in stage 4 to kind of hold on to that idea. Otherwise, that's an AOL to me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's why I was curious: is did it come in maybe too early, and how did it come in? Because I'm trained where it's like, if it's like this, it's like an AOL signal, or did it come in directly as city environment, like those two words?
All right, so I'm going to describe this and then we can sort of take it wherever you want. But sort of like my perception, I think is kind of like a bubble. And what I saw in the center of the bubble was a mom and a child holding hands. She was wearing a skirt. They were on a flat surface, and sort of at the edge of my perception behind them was a flat surface. I couldn't really make out exactly what it was. It sort of had some patterns. It could have been like windows shiny, or it could have been doors, or it could have been, the modeled pattern in that salt. It's a salt mine.
Yeah.
So I put down, and remember, this was a timed 20-minute thing. I felt rushed. So I wrote down,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I
Mhm.
felt I wrote down that they were, walking along on a flat surface or something. I forget the exact words I used, but then I tried to describe the feeling that I was having, and I just wrote city environment. And really, the point that I guess I'm making here, David, is I'm starting to realize the difference between seeing something and feeling something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And 20 minutes, in my mind, it's not much time to get real deep. I mean,
No,
couldn't
not
get
at all.
very
I'm
deep.
running. Yeah. You're run and
yeah.
gun here. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting. I just wanted to add. That's all I got.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Thanks for that, guys. Next up with their hand up is Martin.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you fine.
Hi.
Yep.
Yeah, this is my first time here. I'm based in Copenhagen. I'm actually English. It's a pretty long story. I try and keep it short. I'm a technical guy. I'm a mathematician. Standard job for 40 years. But when year 2000 came and 2012, I got taken down the route of the end of the earth, end of the world, that song, UFOs, aliens. Started reading a lot of weird stuff, and my family think I'm nuts. And only a year or so ago, I fell across this word remote viewing. Then I fell across the word Stargate project, and that led me even deeper down the rabbit hole from which I cannot escape. And after seeing the audio of Edgar Casey, which I found on archive.org, about all of his thousands and thousands of reported viewings, I'm just what the hell is going on here? So really, I've had nowhere to outlet my feelings until now, very first time, and I'm looking for a confirmation I'm not nuts or this actually works. And all the evidence out there, as I've found, is that when you look at the data, it works, but I've not experienced it. So, I'm a technical guy, but I'm looking for confirmation. I'm looking for some evidence to myself of what you already believe and what the data shows. I'm probably going to go on a training in Inverness in October, that sort of thing. I'm looking for a way to explore my anxieties about what the hell is going on here, and to show my family I'm not totally nuts.
They probably won't believe you anyway. You're in
Yeah,
very good
that-
company with people thinking you're nuts.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got to the stage where I dare not speak about it to people, because it's an immediate showstopper at any conversation. They just look at me saying, "Oh, God, not another one." But after all these books I've downloaded about the Stargate project and all the people at Ingo Swann, blah blah blah, there's you can get them all for free off PDF drive. By the way, if you didn't know it, I've not paid for a single one. Thousands of pages of different stories, and I just think, what the hell is going on here? There's something in it, but I don't claim to be a psychic. And how does this work? Is it connected with the awakening of the third eye, the pineal gland, and with the meditation and that sort of thing? The pineal gland seems to be in some way connected with the awakening of the inner body and the third dimension, or the fourth dimension, or fifth dimension. I don't know. I need to speak with people who have experienced.
Have you tried a session yourself yet, Martin?
No, I've been just reading like hell. And the first stage I can get to is you need to quiet your body. You need to be meditated. And I thought about going to transcendental meditation first.
Well, that's not necessarily a requirement. When you get a chance later on, if you go on Reddit, on the remote viewing subreddit, there's actually in the about section, we have a little, here's what remote viewing is and how to do your first remote viewing session. And that'll take you about 10 minutes. You can try it for yourself and see firsthand. In my experience, that has been the best convincer for most people.
So I'm convinced.
Yeah,
I know
it's
that, but I don't know
extremely
how to go
quick and
about
easy
it.
to do. Once you do it for yourself, you can begin to overcome that cognitive dissonance about it's impossible, but it's happening, but it's impossible, but it's, and then when you're doing it, there can't be dodgy statistics or fake results or dishonest people because it's in your direct experience.
What was really a clincher for me was, those of you who know, in England, there has been a woman missing for a month by the name of Nicola Bulley, and she was found by a guy called Jason Rothwell, who claims to be a psychic. Now, is that true? What's happening there? Who lives in England? Anybody know this guy? You do? No. Somebody's laughing out there, Deborah. Yeah, tell me, is that truth or not, or is that completely fake?
It is true, yes. And several of us here are in England. I am. David Harker is. Julie is as well. I don't know who else is in England from
Yeah, I'm in Bristol.
You're literally 5 minutes away from me then in Bath.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, several of us here, and but we're from all over the world here. But yeah, that is a allegedly a true story. I've seen a couple of news links about it and a few TikToks, but nothing completely solid on that one.
I think I saw something in the Daily Mail, and it was pretty convincing. I thought, I kind of believed the guy myself. I thought it was kind of funny. And then I almost knew that you would know. That's why I laughed, because I kind of thought, I bet Daz is looking at this story, is what I was thinking when I saw it. So
yeah, I was, and it was looking like it might be an interesting target, but I also know from lots of experience and research that the police get inundated with so much from alleged psychics that it's not good to do a case unless asked and then provide your information, because it literally, because they essentially do have to follow every lead that comes in, even if they think it's from a person that might be a kook. And the majority of psychics, or people who think they're psychics, given leads, are, I would say, kooks. So it does hinder psychics, and it's a well-known statistic. I've got lots to back this up. It's well known that the amount of psychics that contact police investigations of that magnitude do end up hindering the case more than they end up helping the case. So it's never, although we're all interested in doing that kind of work, it's never really good to do it unless you're doing it in a group that's actually got ties to the police, and they come to you as a separate entity rather than you go to them in a situation.
yeah, see, because if I was a detective, my first thought would be, is this guy inserting himself into his own investigation?
Yeah.
be your first thought. You'd have to think that. So it's
Absolutely.
dangerous really to go
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, and you know, I think I've told you guys the story that when I did my first training class here in Bath, and it's probably got to be around about 1998. I was training a class of six ladies here in Bath, 6 to 8 ladies in CRV, and you know they got good. And one day we had a serial rapist here in Bath for a number of years called the Batman Rapist. And just as a fun project one day, I set them that as the target to look at the Batman Rapist. They came out with all this data. So, you know, we were going through the sessions, looking against the feedback afterwards. I was saying, you know, you girls did a great job on this. What do you want me to do with the data? And they said, send it into the police. And naively, I did that, only to be hauled in front of the police. And then I was abused over several months because it essentially made me one of the prime suspects in the case, you know, because I lived in the area and everything. And the police kept hassling me. They wanted DNA samples. I gave them fingerprints and stuff. I was holding in front to see the inspector of the case, who was demanding I give a DNA sample. And I was refusing because I obviously knew it wasn't me, and I don't trust them to have my DNA on record. But yes, I made that naive issue, and yeah, they obviously thought, oh, this guy's got information that might be valid, and I guess they liked the information from the girls, because yeah, they essentially made me a suspect for 6 months. I think the kind of abuse went on, and it was, you know, I was getting quite bad abuse of them. I have to be honest. They would ring me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and get me out of bed, and then they would have a policeman on the phone saying, look, if you don't give DNA, we might just come into your office today and arrest you in front of everyone and take your DNA. Or we might come to your house right now at 5 o'clock in the morning and break down the door.
Wow.
And I have to be honest, I was getting quite aggressive with them. I was like, well, come and try it if you want, but, you know, I'll take that as an act of aggression. So you see what you get when you try it. Kind of attitude. I didn't make things any better for myself, I must admit.
How long ago was that?
Sorry?
How long ago was that?
This was around about 98, and it still is. The Batman Rapist, you know, if you do some research on it, it still is one of the only unsolved crimes, you know, big crime type things in UK. I can't remember how many rapes it was, but, you know, it was. I think it was in double digits at the time. You know, it was quite serious. Yeah, so that, you know, that's my story to let you know that you have to be very careful what you're doing, because, you know, there are cases of suspects inserting themselves into the investigations to see what's happening. So, you know, if you give up information like that and it's good information, it could end up being you, like it was me at the time. Yeah. So learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, really.
Learn from my mistakes. Don't do it don't contact the
Thanks
police.
for the hard work. Now you're a suspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know of any people active in this way in Denmark?
What, in remote viewing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I know any. Some of the European, Henny, you're in your Europe area a lot more than me. Do you know anyone in Denmark area?
No.
No.
So I'm it.
Germany, several, you know, there are several people teaching in the UK now. Germany, France. I don't know of anyone other than that right now. But, you know, there are people offering online, several different kinds of versions of online training through Zoom and one-to-ones online that might be applicable for you.
Yeah, well, I'll have a week in Inverness, don't worry.
Yeah, I would, but be careful first. Do lots more of your research first. You, as the guy said, maybe try it for yourself in a little experiment to see how you do and if it's for you. Because also going down this route, you have to be aware. Also going down this rabbit hole will change you forever, and it'll also change your relationship with everyone you know forever as well. So
That's
it's a big commitment.
It can change more, I promise.
Okay. Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah.
But you've
And
let
it's
the
worth,
cat out
you know,
the bag now. There's no going back.
Yeah, there is no going back. Yeah, and you do have to, it is a commitment, and a lot of people do put a monetary commitment into this as well. So it's, I always make sure people are very sure that they want to go down that road before they properly do it. So read some more, maybe try a couple of small trials, as they said, for yourself, and then start doing some research into who can train you and stuff. Because a decent trainer out there, lasting X amount of time, will set you back quite a few thousand.
I've got contact with Martin, and I'm giving him support in the background anyway to
Excellent.
prepare him for the training with me and Stella. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, Pat. Sorry, Martin. Do you have anything else before we
No,
move
that's
on?
fine. I'll shut up now.
All right. Pat, you have your hand up if you'd like to go next.
There we go. Yeah, Martin, the thing is with the Roth coming forward and claiming to have discovered the body, remote viewing is about doing psychic stuff within a certain framework, but plenty of people do psychic stuff outside of the framework. They're naturally good at it. And there aren't many, so like I think it's 0.5%, 1 in 200 is a generally quoted statistic on how many people just go into it and can do it without really thinking about it. As in, they don't really need training. They're as good at the beginning as they are at the end of training because they just could do it anyway. So if you like, remote viewing's a skill training method to try and get people who aren't that naturally skills to be able to do the same thing. That's just my take on it. Whether that's accurate or not in this case, I couldn't say for sure. But as a general rule of thumb, yes, there are some genuine psychics. And yes, there are plenty of other psychics who are completely fraudulent. So take every claim with a big pinch of salt. And if you do go in for training, the only person you're really competing against is yourself. That's all I'm going to say on it, okay? Short and sweet. I hope that helps.
Thanks for that one, Pat. The next person with their hand up, there's not a name, it's a character, D.
Oh, hey. It's
Hi
Dan.
there.
Hey, Des. Thanks so much for putting this on. Been following you for a while, and was just curious. I know you have a background in training for like psychic mediumship, I suppose, and I was just wondering either question both to yourself and to the group broadly. Do you think training for remote viewing can put you, I guess, at risk of, like, I don't know, what we call it, spiritual or attacks, or maybe even a more broad question? Do you think there are downsides or risks of remote viewing aside from like things I've heard you say, like don't remote view for strangers and stuff? Thank you.
I can start off with this and then the others can chime in. Where to go with this, really? Psychic kind of attacks and stuff. I have never encountered that within remote viewing. And I have within classical work. But I have the mindset in classical work that kind of stuff is part and part of what you do. And within remote viewing, I have the mindset that it doesn't exist. So for me, it doesn't exist, and I have had no problem in that regard. So it's my belief, and I can't prove this, and everyone else might have a different opinion, that whatever your mindset is, it kind of makes it so. So if you believe you can be attacked by certain psychics or pick up certain energies and bad things from targets, then that might be applicable to you. If you have a different mindset, you might have a different situation with it. I don't know if
happened to
anything,
me and other people I know. If you stay away from really weird targets, like stay away from Area 51 and the moon and aliens and all that kind of crazy shit, and just stay home, you'll be okay.
I think it's interesting, Daz, that you mentioned you have not had this experience, but because I was actually going to mention this if this topic came up. You came from this background of you came from the classical psychic training background. So you have a box for this, you have a box for that. You've done scrying, you've done tarot, you've done this, that, and the other. It's where a lot of people come kind of into remote viewing the backwards angle. We haven't experienced these channels yet, through classical psychic work. So you know, and again, I don't know, you know what I mean? But theoretically, okay, you know, it's almost like a remote viewer could be exploring these channels because they don't have a box for it yet. You know, I don't know what this is. I have no experience with channeling or scrying or tarot, or, you know, I haven't done any of that. So I just have to wonder if that may play a part in it. And I think it's very interesting the way you put it, because I think when people, because it is these weird targets like Dave's mentioned, and as far as my own experience, it's always in those weird targets. It's never in just like a normal target situation. So I think, you know, when you go down this road of it's like imagination or thing, I think it's very dismissive, you know, and I don't know what it is, like I said, but I kind of like the way you described it, and that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, it's definitely not imagination. I just think that with everything you do within all different realms of the psychic stuff, the belief system you have and the intent and attitude you have going into it affects what happens. I mean, I wrote a book, and I don't publicize the book at all, but I wrote a book called Surfing the Psychic Internet, and it was about 10 years of experimental work within a psychic circle group where we would go out into the universe and try to dialogue with and channel entities and stuff. And pretty much that entire book is almost about me having this kind of duel. As I was going through my travels, these dark shrouded entities were following me, trying to stop me from doing it, you know, getting quite almost like not physically violent but psychically violent at times. But that's, yeah, for me, that's a different life. It's like the moment I started doing remote viewing and it was like, okay, this is a no nonsense method. In my head, that put a guard down, and I just, you know, in the tens of thousands of remote viewing sessions, I never have experienced anything like I did doing it in my other way. And as I said, the only difference in that is my mindset. But you know, again, it might be different for all of you because we're all different. We're all individuals. But yeah, I don't think it's imagination. This kind of stuff happens. You know, there are some bad things out there that want to interact with humans. And, you know, I have seen some remote viewers when we're doing missing people targets and some esoteric targets, because their belief system allows it, they do get affected by those targets in a negative and emotional way. So we all have to understand that we bring into what we do here our life experiences, our thoughts, our beliefs, our intent, and that may be the driving force behind everything to do with RV and psychic stuff. I don't know. I have a belief system that it might be.
Belief is a very valuable tool.
It is, yes. You know, it's almost like voodoo. You know, the more you believe in voodoo, the more it seems to affect you. And the same with prayer.
Happened to me though when I didn't believe in them, and they still happened.
Yes, they can do.
Yeah, I have no big belief one way or the other. I just have whatever it is, it is. I don't have any interest in what's there. It's just data. You know, and some of the stuff, esoteric stuff, I mean, it's way outside of my belief system. It's like, I don't even know if I should write this shit down. You know, so I mean, I don't know. It's definitely interesting for now.
Write everything down, David. Data is data.
What's that?
I said write everything down, man. Data is data.
Yeah,
that's right.
Isn't there a story Lynn Buchanan is always telling? He told he was investigating a criminal. He drove home and he had a weird thought, something like mowing the lawn, doing grocery shopping, and killing my wife. And then he realized, oh, what am I thinking? And he had been remote viewing this murderer, and then he had to do a detox. And probably a lot remote viewing teachers also teach to detox. That's also very, very important in that case. So that you don't catch thoughts which are not yours from the target.
Yeah, I have something to say.
Similarly mitigate that risk by envisioning yourself going through your session behind a sort of filter that prevents those kind of things from coming across and affecting you.
Just
but
like
all these techniques are, as I said, though, they are, you know, your belief system, your intent. Everyone's different in this. You know, if you feel like you might be affected, then seek out some books. I mean, there's a great book by Dion Fortune called Psychic Protection.
Psychic self-defense.
Psychic self-defense. That's the one. Yes,
that is
it's a classic. That is, most psychics in classical training learn to read that book and value those lessons early on. But again, I still think it's a belief system. I don't believe any of that exists for me within RV, and I've never encountered it. But if I stepped into my other psychic world out of RV, then it's everywhere, and I have to be very wary of everything I do.
There is.
If I interact with something that's Eric in a session, I end up sketching myself in the session, and during the moment, I'm not even realizing it's me. But that's how weird it gets sometimes. But,
wow. Dan, I think what everyone is saying here is, it depends on what your mental hookup is, right? But there's one thing that hasn't been mentioned that I'd like to mention, and that is some of us have come from different experiential backgrounds. I actually came from Ouija boards back in, when I was a teenager, okay? The point is, something could happen that will both amaze and shock you. And what will be your reaction to that? Will you be scared? Or will you sort of just accept it, that it can happen? Sometimes I feel like you have to step up to the power of some of this stuff. You have to be used to it. It can happen. It's no big deal. Or you're afraid of it. That right there, that's a very interesting situation. So I hope that gives you some idea.
There is the other case where sometimes things you remote view are just flat out traumatic. There's lots of things that we could see in our physical waking lives which would traumatize us, and if you remote view them, you can lose some sleep over it. Like we were talking about criminal cases in the UK earlier. There's this one of Constance Martin and Mark Gordon who'd gone missing with their baby, and a few weeks ago they were like, oh, there's a £10,000 reward, and I thought, I'm just going to do this, why not? I didn't do anything with the data, but I just did it for a bit of practice, and got that the baby was deceased. And today or yesterday, I don't know, last couple of days, it's come out in the news that's the case. And there's this effect where you can remote view really traumatic stuff, and then it's not until you get the feedback and you find out that it's real and the data gets filled in that it really hits you. And that's when you have that experience, you'll know it. I've had many sleepless nights, some of them thanks to Daz.
Dan, does that answer your question? Do you have any more?
Yeah, that definitely helps a lot, Don. I appreciate it. And I like when I was a kid, I was very telepathic, and I had a few I guess strange experiences. Actually, one with the Ouija board where I felt like I was being attacked for like 3 months as a child, and whether it was in my head or not, who knows? But I think in general, in all areas of life, you just want to be careful, right? And I did have an unrelated question, Daz. I don't want to hog the mic too long, but if possible, so I actually trade cryptos, and I have my own investment group, and I've watched a lot of your crypto viewing videos, and I was curious if you have any data around like I guess success rates, either in predicting your up and down days or like targets or whatever. I was just curious, like when you're in general, I'm just curious what like the hit rate is when using remote viewing in that way.
Not sure we do. I mean, I know what my predictive one is doing the news because I databased it. But I haven't done all my RV sessions with the cryptos. The only real analysis we have in crypto viewing is, I think, when we go back through, I don't know if you've seen, we do the look back RV sessions. So we look back at the ones we did a year previous just to see how accurate we are, because with the crypto viewing ones, we're kind of usually tasked to look a year ahead to see where the crypto is going in the year. So on probably about 20 of them, we've gone back, looked at them and said, okay, how accurate were we when we looked forward a year? I think that's as far as we've done, because we're doing so much work that I don't think anyone's sat down and took all that information in, because it's just like, I mean, I couldn't imagine having the database 5 years worth of remote viewing sessions on that.
Right.
I don't know. I could ask the team, because another thing with crypto viewing as well is there are layers within crypto viewing, and we have this admin layer, and we have several admin layers actually, because there's like social media and people tasking and stuff, but they don't involve us as remote viewers in any of that admin stuff, like recording scores and stuff, because they know that from historical use of us doing that as remote viewers, we find it incredibly tedious and boring, and then that affects our results by having to do it ourselves. So yeah, there is that level of not keeping us informed in that admin, because I would class databasing my the results as an admin, that a remote viewer probably shouldn't do them themselves. But I could ask them if they have those. I don't, as I said, I don't know off the bat, because they keep me segregated from as much admin stuff as possible to try to keep me as happy to do the remote viewing.
Okay.
But yeah, sorry. The best answer I can give you is the look back RV sessions that we're doing on a regular basis, which give you the analysis.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
On a personal level, though, I think my results, I think, are I can't give you a figure on it, but I think they are very accurate when it comes to the market flow of cryptos, especially the way that the market flow is manifesting in what would be called my ideograms, or those little squiggly sketches.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's, and I guess because you've seen our videos, you see now that we're all doing, we all do the same charts now as well. We're enforcing us all to do like the 30 days, a year, and then I think it's 5-year charts. I think those are becoming quite interesting as well, because across the board you do see when you see all charts from all 4 of us for each of those time periods, you do see some very similar signals in those. But again, it needs, I don't know. I can't answer it fully, I'm afraid.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. All right. Yeah, I'll wait for the others. I actually honestly have like 100 questions for you, but I don't want to jam up the mic. So
I mean, just fill in some questions as we go through the night. We did have some hands up, but they're gone at the moment. I can't remember who had it up there. But we have some questions on the chat list as well. So yeah, come back in with some questions a bit later on, Dan. That's not a problem. We have a question here. I don't know who can answer this from the chat window. Maybe Henny, if she's willing to, or anyone else that knows. But someone's got a question about the HRVG methodology, and they want to know if someone can explain the visual recall or the little face that some of us use called Nemo, I think it is, in HRVG. Are you allowed to talk about it? You're not going to answer, Henny? I mean, Henny, you're the only one here that's training in it, aren't you? Or is anyone else training in it? Or Don?
Don, you are, aren't you?
No, we have Don and we have Kavan here, and I think they are going to be really quiet as well.
Can you not give like a slight overview? I mean, of what that is for roughly?
Yeah, I can say a few words about it.
The brave one.
Yeah, basically, that face there, it's part of a methodology that I guess was developed in the special services. I don't know exactly the background on it, but it has something to do with neuro-linguistic programming, which I have not read the book on or anything about. Anyway, I took the HRVG course, and before I took that course, I had like a TRV course with John Vivanco, and my word-based perceptions seemed pretty good. My sketches of the site sketches were terrible. Like, in fact, they were non-existent. And what I found with the HRVG methodology was it kind of forced me. It forced me to like sketch, what they have this like idea of like little boxes that you're supposed to put visuals in, and like, they want visuals in there, so put something. So it forced me to do it. And I you step up to it. You step up to like coming up with these visuals. And so all of a sudden now I was putting them in my sessions and I got used to it. And now it's like part of my routine. So all I can say is I found it very helpful for me. Annie, how about you? Do you like it?
Yeah, I can definitely say that my visuals, this methodology is really heavy on the visuals, and it's training you to get good visuals. It helped me with getting more accurate visual perceptions.
All right, so there it is.
Thanks, guys. That was for Sandra Antonio. So yeah, I hope that helps, Sandra. Anyone got any questions or anything? Because there are no hands up at the moment, and there was just a minute ago.
I'm gonna say, Daz, I sense some frustration coming at you with that last TikTok you did with the Stargate books. Talking about reading. I was sensing like some frustration with the ignorance of the mainstream. Am I right about that?
Yeah, there was a little bit. Sometimes I get a little bit frustrated. And it was because I was listening to I think it was the physicist. I think I can't remember his name. Wiseman on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Eric Weinstein or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, that guy. And yeah, he just winds me up. People should know better. And especially people like him, an academic. Just read the research. It's there. Yeah.
It's a blanket statement. It could be damaging. It's just ignorant. Yeah,
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, so frustration gets the better of me sometimes. Aaron, you got your hand up if you'd like to go next.
Sure. I think it's been mentioned a couple times here, and it's I'm a newer viewer, and I really enjoy the database part, or at least reviewing the data. Entering it is a complete beatdown. So I'm wondering, everybody's really keyed into the data because it does give you some kind of reliability about yourself, but is everybody finding you're making your own? Or is there a semi-central one? I mean, I'm coming from the Lori Williams, Lynn Buchanan kind of school, so they're really into the data, and that's and logging it in, and that's great. But man, it's that's tough. But I mean, I enjoy having the data, of course, and it's great analytically, and you can learn a lot from it. But I'm just wondering what people are doing for that. Because at what point do you just kind of try? Because so much of what I'm learning in remote viewing is it doesn't matter, just keep going. Don't worry about it, just keep going. Yeah. But I'm trying to find the balance between post analysis, post session analysis, and do I need to go that deep with it or not? I mean, how much of a buyout? How much do you get out of that? I don't know. I'm looking for opinions there, and how hard to focus on that as I dive into it deeper.
All I can add is I don't database anymore. I took a 6-month course several years ago. It's called it was the Lynn Buchanan and Colleen Morenich operational certification program. And it's like a really 6-month, really hardcore intensive. And that involved databasing every RV session that I did within that for 6 months. And that's what turned me off of it. I have to be honest. As like you, seeing the data is great. Seeing the categories and knowing you're getting good at colors, you're getting rubbish at this one, and you need to work on it and so forth. It's fantastic to have that data at hand. But when it came to actually sitting there for an extra hour and a half, putting after my RV session, putting in all the individual words into the categories, I have to be honest. I find that mind-numbingly boring. If I could pay someone a few dollars on like Fiverr.com to do it for me, I would database every RV session, but I can't do it myself. I tried it for that amount of time, and it killed me. I do like the Lynn approach where, from many years ago, and I've published it on several forums. He has like a simple sheet that you fill in, and you can do it in pretty much, 20 minutes. You can go back for your RV, count the hits, count the misses, count the questionable, question marks, and then quickly tot up roughly what your rough percentage is for each category and for the target overall. I liked that approach because I could do that in 20 minutes, but even 20 minutes is a bit long. But that's just me. I don't know if anyone else is databasing. Other than that, what I'm doing now with the people I'm teaching or mentoring is I'm getting them to keep a journal alongside their RV training. And I'm encouraging them every time they do an RV session, when they get the feedback, to actually write in their journal, to go back through the RV session, look at all the bits where they think they did good, where they did feel they went off target, where they think they went bad. If there are any kind of words that jumped out that they never had before, but it was accurate, to journal that, write about it. And the act of writing it in the journal, is kind of building it within their memory and their mental memory and muscle memory. But it also acts as a guide alongside the RV sessions as well. But does anyone else have anything to share on databasing?
I didn't do a database, but when I first learned RV, I was going through my sessions and trying to understand what was like accurate, what was close, and what was off. And what you discover, or at least what I discovered, was you're sort of like learning how your subconscious talks. Sometimes it uses really odd words to describe something, words you don't even know the meaning of, and you look them up and you're, oh, look how it described that. Okay, it can do that. All right. You need to know that. All right. Odd words, it helps. Okay. It helps to understand this new language. You're discovering a new language with your subconscious is what it is. And you're like opening it up, and maybe understanding it helps to refine it.
Yeah, it's weird. I find I've been burning through sessions, but I can't necessarily. I take a quick look at the feedback later, or I try to make myself wait, so I'm not chasing the feedback, I guess, that kind of concept. But I feel like I might be doing myself a disservice not looking closer at my results, because I get the vibe of it. I'm like, okay, I did hit there. I think that was a real thing, and then it'll dawn on me later that I hit something that I thought I'd missed completely, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't pay any attention to when I'm doing the session, whether I'm accurate or not.
Yeah.
I just sort of go with whatever, data is popping up, and then I'll wait and see. And like you said, if I'm off, well, then there's the next one,
Right.
Have you considered maybe getting an RV buddy or a partner, where you could help each other out by going through each other's RV sessions afterwards with the feedback and saying, look, you did this well, you did this, badly, maybe you could do this a bit better, kind of thing?
I've definitely worked a lot in doing monitoring back and forth, and that feels like gold. That's like where I learn a whole lot, watching them view and also having them help me. But I can't necessarily say I've spent a lot of time with it on the feedback itself. We'll kind of go through it, but not in detail. So that's a pretty good suggestion there.
Yeah. There's always, I say this to the people I mentor and stuff, there's always gold nuggets of information in every RV session you do, especially on the bits you do wrong and the bits you miss.
Yeah.
I can hit an RV session and nail the target, even name the target, and I just chuck it to one side to go, yeah, I nailed the target and named it, and that's it. That's all I learned from it. But the ones where I miss, where I go awry, I like to really go back through those and kind of have a look at the data flow, how it emerged into my subconscious, what made me go off target, and as I say to the people I mentor, if you take 100 RV sessions and you learn one thing from each RV session, that's 100 great lessons you've learned. So yeah, I definitely recommend going through your RV sessions and analyzing them. Maybe give it a day or so first, give it time to kind of soak into your mind, then go back through it. As I said, journal it or on a separate sheet of paper over the top. Just go back through it, have your session there, your feedback by the side of it, and try to see how this language is just trying to establish itself with you, because essentially all RV is you. That's all you're developing, is you and the way you communicate with the universe. And there are these little subtleties. I know for me, it's just like, as Don said, it's a single word. And I had this mechanism, whereas if a word comes up in an RV session that I know is not my common language, I always ring it or underline it, because I know that that's quite important. And maybe I'll stage 5 it and look into that later on. But if not, at least because I've ringed it or underlined it, whenever I review that session, I kind of know that, oh, that was a bit different. That word meant something to me at the time. I need to find out a bit more about that one.
Right. No,
Yeah, I
appreciate
get that constantly in my sessions, and I will pull out my phone and get the definition for the word. It's like I don't, what is it talking about?
Right.
There's one other thing that your question is really interesting, and that is, if you have a really great session, a really bang on session, I find I get nervous when people compliment me because that puts pressure on me to do well the next time. I almost don't want that, It's like, okay, I did all right, but don't puff it up. Don't, it's kind of a thing. Henny and Demi, if they're there, I'd like to know what their impression is on this, because they all did fantastic on that last target. Are they still here?
I'm still here, Don. Yes, and I was listening to you, and the idea is that I can take from I also got a lot of information too, as you said before, and the language that you're talking about. What was the question exactly?
Oh, like if you have a really fantastic session, and you both did.
No.
But the thing is, it's getting to the point where if you have a really terrific session, you almost don't want to hear people complimenting you, right?
I had misses because I have a very good session. The next one was if you can say a big miss. A big miss, yes, you can say a big miss.
Not me. I love the compliments.
Yeah, that sounds like an internal belief system that needs to be
All right, we're going to lay it on you, Dave.
He's not fighting that ego at all.
It was a time when I was having such a good session that I was expecting the next one to be the same. And that was, I was thinking my arrogation type of missing. So that's it for me.
Henny, how about you?
I always have these high expectations, so I think actually the hardest person to meet the expectations of is always me. That, and then we are talking about remote viewing, so it's always in the cards to completely miss a target or go in the wrong direction. That happens. I think the only thing I do is, even if I feel scared, I do the session and I submit it, and then whatever happens and hope for the best.
So if you have
that's my coping strategy. I do it
so
anyways.
So if you have a great session, are you a little nervous when you get a lot of compliments?
Yeah, I guess I would say, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's because then I have to perform that good the next time. It's more like, because I've seen many people who have done way better. So I always feel like it's not such a big deal. I mean, you see Desi's session, you see Dick's sessions, you see sessions back from when Joe was on, or you see sessions from your teachers, and you go, okay, well, yeah, that was an okay session, but you haven't seen a really good session yet if you think that's so good. So yeah, that's my take on that one.
All right, thank you.
Just another word. I think that all came down to what your type of personality it is. You have the way you are constructed, or the way you are thinking about yourself is weighing the much part of the way you are doing the next one or whatever. It's the way you're built. It's telling you what you're going to react to the next one, or to a better one, or to a worse one. I don't know. That's my other take from it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys, on that one. And Dave, yeah, you've had your hand out there a while. If you want to go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Des, because I know you've went through probably, if not all the sessions that are available back in the Stargate days. You've seen sessions, throughout the years you've been doing this, many. And do you find that the remote viewers today, like not outside of modality, the remote viewers, I'm saying,
yeah.
Do you find that they're digging deeper, getting more information? Do you feel like there's kind of or you feel like it's about the same from when you started? And if it has gotten better, I would ask you, what do you think the cause of that is?
That's a good question, actually. I haven't compared it before, but I'm just trying to do it in my head right now. Looking at, if I compared what I've seen from the very first, let's say the first 10 students doing CRV with Ingo, against what I see right now, where I'm teaching people a very similar process, but slight, with my own twist, I would say they're getting way better data. Now, reasons why on that.
Let me ask you this though. Now, those guys were paid to go in, do their thing in the military. I'm just wondering if this may have had a factor of like, it's just my job. And there's only a handful of people at the time doing this. So there's no competitive nature. Like, you're lucky you get this.
Yes.
As to where, like, now, I mean, like the little project we just did for Facebook, you look at, there's like all this data. It's just like people are digging deep.
I think because back then there was just nothing, and everything was it was so new in every regard. I think even the newest student we get coming on to anyone that's training nowadays will have had some kind of exposure, and the wealth of information that's out there at the moment. The people in this group alone here this evening, yourself included, they're just putting out reams and reams of RV content. You're doing your videos now. We've been doing these open chat ones and sticking them online. I'm doing my crypto viewing ones. Don and Henny and Dimmy are all on Hellfire with me. And then we got David here. He's doing a Cypher podcast. There's so much information now that I think it just helps open you up before you're even getting there, because it's like we're all informed in all subjects nowadays because we have the internet. If you think, I remember pre-internet because any information I wanted to get back in the day, I had to go to the local library and get it on little paper cards. And I think that the internet now, just by having access to all that information, has made me knowledgeable in a lot more area. Not I wouldn't say expert, but I'm knowledgeable in a lot more areas than I would have been if we didn't have the internet. So I think it's access to the reams and reams of information that's out there now, which those guys, just didn't have. There was nothing. The closest they had were the psychic defense workbooks and Robert Monroe books. There was nothing until Ingo and all the others started writing their books, and other people from different areas as well started writing books. So I think it's access to information, and they do say the 100th monkey syndrome kind of plays a part in this as well, which is possible because there are records of animals, and if you teach us, if you teach a certain songbird a certain tune, you'll find that generations down the line, it's people, it's children, and then their children's children, and those birds know elements of that song because it gets passed down through the line. So I think that might be happening to some degree as well. But you guys, you all you up and coming generation, because I class myself as an older kind of guy now, the data and the quality and the depth and the sketches and everything and the projects I see coming from you guys is, it's inspirational. It's good. It's great. It's fantastic work.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
May I also
I've seen the same thing generationally, and I just wondered if you're seeing the same thing I am. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Thanks, Des.
You were going to say something there, Josh. What were you saying?
Yeah. This is in a similar vein to your comment, but I also wonder if it's not also to do with the types of targets people are training. At the time, a lot of those targets in the Stargate program were very centered around specific things that whatever the CIA or whoever was particularly in charge at the time was asking them to look for, whereas we all test ourselves against a wide variety of targets and come up with different ways to collect that data, different little tricks and such.
Yeah. It's very possible that that plays a part as well. I mean, as we all know, you know, the real money in remote viewing stopped in 95 when they started funding, and everything that's really been happening in remote viewing since is, we have to be honest, it's been done on an amateur level by all of us guys doing our bits and pieces. So there's still so much of this puzzle that we just, you know, like the mechanism and everything, we just do not know it. You know, it needs a billionaire to come along, stick 50 million into it and set up a couple of projects and you know, do some serious research, but it's just not being done, which is a shame. But you know, it means that the rest of us have to step up to the mark and do our little bits, but we aren't doing the hardcore research course. You know, we're not getting to what is the root mechanism behind RV and what we're doing here and all, and you know, answering some of these questions. Why are the generations now getting it better? Why are they just better than previous generations? And I've said this for years. 20-50 million and a concerted effort in this over a period of 5 years, you could answer quite a lot of these questions. I'd have thought with all these new technologies that we have nowadays, you know, with, you know, all the software, the AIs that are available out there, quantum computers, all that kind of stuff. If you had access to money, you could answer some of these questions. Remember me a sec, guys. I'm letting someone in.
Hey, you know, one other thing on this, Dave. It's you know, if you want to bowl with better bowlers, right? If you want to play better cards, play with better card players. This group right here.
I will say, like I work with Theo and some other people, and it seems like that. I mean, like if you're surrounded by good people, you raise your game. You know,
yeah, that's the point. Yeah, it raises your game.
Yeah, and I don't know what that is, and then I don't know. It seems like there is a drive of you know, these remote viewers and where they're just hanging in there. You know, like, oh, fucking, I'll hang in there for an hour or 2 hours. Like, I'll just keep going and going and going. And I've done it myself. You know, it's where you just want to get every piece out of it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
All right, back to you, Des.
Yeah, no, there's a good point actually. Group work with like-minded individuals is definitely a very good way to just build your general skills all around, you know, because, you know, when you're working in a group, you are symbiotically working as without you knowing it, you do become a symbiotic kind of unit, and I think there is some kind of magic behind the RV process that knows how to do this, but it does link you and you have these overlaps in certain ways. I can't put my finger quite on it, but it does work in an amazing way. And you know, working in small groups as well allows you to take responsibilities over different roles. You know, one of you is tasking while the other ones are working, you know, and then you're analyzing all that kind of stuff, and it just helps build all your skills, especially, you know, because we all generally work in a vacuum on our own. It's really nice to see how other people approach their RV and, you know, how they filter information through them as well. It helps you with your journey and maybe gives you these little bit of subtle tips to help you on your pathway. So yeah, sharing in groups, if anyone's not doing that out there, that is a good mechanism to, you know, kind of start taking yourself to the next levels and stuff, like several of us are doing. You know, set up small groups, do projects and publish the projects.
And
anything else, Dave?
The subreddit for remote viewing has a Discord server that's a lot of new people come together and they'll share their sessions and kind of connect in that way. And if you're looking for one, we're out.
Yeah, the Discord one's pretty good. Most, well, not, I wouldn't say most of us, but probably about, I'm looking at the list here now, probably about 6 or 7 of us here on the list are pretty much on the Discord server pretty much every night of the week, usually. You know, we're on it usually from GMT time onwards at night, you know, from, you know, around about the time we met today. sometimes for 4 or 5 hours going into the early hours of the morning. Some of the guys there are doing their cowboy RV live actually in the channel, and everyone can hear it and listen and watch. Other times we're just chatting about normal RV projects, sharing sessions, sharing books, links, all that kind of stuff. So there's a huge resource there on Discord and on Reddit. There's 2 different services there really, but they're connected. But yeah, I recommend having a look at those, because you can also set up your own communities within those spaces as well. Discord is a fantastic place to, if you want to project manage and set up a group of remote viewers, to set it up on there. It takes you like 2 minutes to set up a private server for yourself, and you can have voice chats, text chats, video chats, and you can exchange files and text and all that kind of stuff really easily without having to have it all on a central database or a server like Google Drive or Dropbox or something. So yeah, it's a great tool. Bear with me, I've got to let someone else in. Any other questions you guys got out there that you want to, or not just questions, but anything you want to talk about? Or should we maybe see if David wants to tell us a little bit about cowboy remote viewing?
Yeah, let's get into that. I want to hear about that.
Oh,
you okay with that?
Hey, right. So who wanted to know about doing remote viewing live or be doing it? As whoever was asking that
I'm
on
curious
Facebook
as well.
I think,
But I'm going over my hill.
Jimmy or
Oh,
James
Josh.
asked about doing live RV, within the Zoom thing on Facebook.
Wow, I'm not going to get a whiteboard out. So
You know, Daz, the funny thing about that is when you're tested by like Ed May, he wants you to do like a cowboy, you're calling it remote viewing session, this is what he says to you. Go ahead. He doesn't give you an RV number, nothing. And at the same time, he has on his computer 200 or 300 images. And while you're doing your image, he touches the button and he's shooting the crap with you while you're writing stuff down. And that's that's his scientific approach. He doesn't know the target. You don't know the target. And all you have to do is make some sort of contact with it, with the site. You don't have to be 100% accurate, just past 50%. And he has a ratio of 1 to 5. He numbers it, 5 being a hit, 4 being somewhat closer, that type of thing, down to 0. And what he's trying to prove, what he explained to me, was that if you're able to get 2 and 3s and 4s, you're showing an ability that it's scientifically a little hard to explain through physics. And that's what he's been trying to do. That's what he used with Joe McConical. And I got to be honest with you, I thought at first this ain't gonna work. I'm gonna need a target number or something, And I'm telling you, when you put down your defenses and stuff and you just let go and you wait for the information to come in, you can get data. I was shocked.
What I'd be curious, Jimmy, is if you do a large scale demo in front of a bunch of people, is the session any more noisier than one if you did it by yourself?
Well, I don't.
That's what I wonder.
My answer.
I've done demos, but not on a grand scale. Because I don't care. You know what I mean? If I knock it out of the park, or if
Daz,
I
did you manage to get somebody to task a target for tonight?
I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for Don said earlier was the unusual words. Anything just pops in without thinking. I mean, Angela Ford and Ed May told me the same thing. Thinking is the worst thing for you in remote viewing. If you get in the habit of thinking, you're going to go right down the crapper. You don't want to think. You want to somehow train yourself through experiences or practice just to do whatever you do, warm-up wise or cool down, and just wait, bam, comes right in. And then you write as fast as possible, like a channeling or a psychic type stuff. Write it down, express it. Don't think about it. Continue on. What else happens next one? It's very fast, and that's what sort of he told me. Ed May and Angela said that's what the phenomena is that getting the unknown information out of nowhere you're pulling out, and you don't have to be 100% accurate as long as you're somewhere on the target site or whatever. You're doing something that is only Ed May told me, which is like 2% of the population can do, which is out of nowhere. You're getting accurate information that an analyst could look at, like Ed, when he looked at my stuff, he would say, okay, this is good, that's wrong, this is good. Okay, you got a 3 on this remote viewing. That's pretty good. Okay, then I'll see you next week. There's no like lead up to it. There's no nothing. It's out of the blue. And that's what I've been trying to train myself was the last thing Daz did. I said, you know, I'm just going to do an instant against the whiteboard session without thinking the best I can. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. And I got kind of Daz's take on it, which is what's going to happen to me if I'm wrong? Nothing. So it just makes me more confident and stuff. But I'm really trying to look for that data that doesn't make sense. That to me is the real information of the data. And then you can always like, you know, you can go farther down. Like Daz says, the stage 5, break apart words or whatever you wanted to. But I think early on in the RV stuff with, you know, Russell and Hal in the early days, if you really watch some of that stuff, they didn't go through a lot of like, you got to do stage 6, you got to do this, you got to do that. They really just said, if you can get, I guess would consider a cowboy remote viewing or a basic remote viewing session or something with there's data in it and they're pulling it out of nowhere, that's the information. You know, like somebody else said earlier regarding your lifestyle or your experiences and stuff. Like we were talking the other night, you and I, Dave, about what you came up with in one of your remote viewing sessions recently. And when I came up in what I call Google search, which I just sit down and wait for a future event I write down or whatever. And we had very similar data about that unusual, we'll just say device you pictured out. And I wrote down something very similar, which is like a futuristic type thing or something. Now, you can go down the rabbit hole on some of this stuff and it gets crazy. And, or you just say, I don't know what the hell this is about. But I think the chances are we can have a very similar drawing on something. And then you happen to send me some data and say, hey, this is some weird stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I got the same thing about 2 months ago. Here's my picture. And it's very close. And it's in that weird, what is really going on phenomena of like outside the normal box and stuff. And that's real. I consider that real.
Well, I get when clients come to me, it's always weird shit. They don't come to me for normal shit. I guess I'm not the remote viewer who people come to for just normal stuff. So it was all I can say is you get a weird tasking, you're going to get a weird result. That's about all I can tell you.
It's interesting. It's crazy. And once you get down that rabbit hole, you know, you do change your personality. I've changed my beliefs in a lot of things. And I think it's for the positive. I think there's much more to all this than we're talking about. I think there's I think there's layers of it. I think you slowly get by one layer. Then you're like, what the hell happened there? Well, it happened last time too. Okay, and you go next layer, and the next layer, and then you sit back saying, hold on here. There's something bigger, and then this whole thing of us just discussing it, talking about methods, talking about personalities. I believe, and I'm not afraid to say it now. I was afraid for a while to say it. I think we are living in, I said to David the other day, I said, yeah, I'm just going to say it from now on. I think we are in some sort of simulation or a matrix setup. Because I think remote viewing hacks it. And that's where we get this data and psychic information and stuff. And, you know, people can say it's a religious type of thing or whatever. That's fine. But that's my belief because I've had tremendous luck. As long as I agreed in my head, I know I can do this. I'm not perfect at it, but I know I can, you know, get somewhere near the target. And that's a phenomenon in itself. You know, for somebody like myself, I have no background like Daz. You know, I have zero. I was kind of forced into this from 1998 forward, or a near-death experience type thing. And
yeah, that's why I don't release anything on Jesus because I've got so much weird data around that guy. It's too controversial. I don't bring anything out. It's just I'm not trying to mess with his beliefs or anything. You know, it's just like I plugged this in. This is what came out of it. That's it. You know.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, and after remote viewing, I became an atheist because, you know, I believe there is a Jesus character or some sort of whatever. But I have to be honest with you, I think there's a bigger thing going on, and we're only getting a small little percent of it. And that's just for 5 years of remote viewing. I can't imagine somebody like Daz with 20 years that probably knows much more, and he's afraid to say anything. You know, I understand. You know, because it's hard. Well, let's talk then. I think my personal self now, and through remote viewing and people talking to other people, that there is, besides, well, I think it involves remote viewing, which is, I believe something else is going on that purposely blocks certain targets, certain things that we can say about hitting games or remote viewing sports events, how you can have a great session, get pulled data out of nowhere, and be on a piece of paper, have all the stuff about a team you don't even know about, and it all leads in one direction, and the game comes and you're completely wrong. And then you can do days where you feel horrible.
Dude, that's why I'll remote view a whole game, and then but instead of I'll get the sport, the team, but I'll get the wrong team. I'll get a team that's in the running, but not the team. So that's why I don't. And for whatever, and maybe some people could do this, but for whatever reason, that's the kind of results I get with those kinds of tasks. So to me, it's frustrating as a viewer that it would take me this far along into a tasking like that, and then still give me the wrong information at the end. So it's like, you know what? I got a feeling that's a waste of my time personally. So I don't remote view stuff like that. It's too frustrating for me.
Well, that's great questions, guys. And let's try to revisit that in a minute. I want to try to get Dave, because you guys did ask on Facebook. I do want to try to get David to talk a little bit about the cowboy methods that they're doing and stuff on Discord. And if any or someone wants to pick, I don't know how David wants to do this. If anyone wants to pick a target, you guys, some of you here live can have a go at doing this if you want.
Didn't you come up with a target already? Somebody did. I thought you said they did. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm sorry I haven't got PowerPoint, but right. So cowboy remote viewing is, as I said earlier, is only called cowboy because Daz said I'm not doing any of that cowboy shit. And we didn't have a name for it. It was inspired by the idea of magical evocation, with magic circles and robes and all the rest of it to talk to spiritual beings. And I thought, hey, why can't we take something from the remote viewing world and do that in a blind way without all the robes and the hats and whatever else you got, right? Another thing which inspired it, we were playing with a skin galvanometer, which some of you may be familiar with, the Scientology e-meter they use for auditing. And when you use it, you've got to hold this thing in your hand and keep it really still because muscle movements mess up the readout. And we were on the Discord voice chat one night, and we were trying to do an experiment to see if we got a readout from that thing during remote viewing when the data was correct or not, right? And I had that in my left hand and my sheet of paper in front of me, and I was trying to write, and my paper was sliding all over the desk because usually I hold the paper with the other hand, but I was like one-handed. That experience made me realize that I couldn't get data unless I got my pen and I poked on a piece of paper with my pen, because I've trained myself by repetition so much that the probing and the poking and all of the stuff I do with the pen is the trigger for me to perceive the data. So those two things kind of came together at some point with probably quite a large amount of beer, and one night we decided let's just do this. So Cowboy RV is RV with no paper whatsoever. We've just done it on voice calls with each other. So sometimes we remember to record them. Often somebody takes notes and scribes, but the idea is to unload the viewer as much as possible so you can just talk. I quite often I'm sat here with a near rhythm and a blindfold on, waving my hands around in the air like a Italian remote viewer. No offense to any Italian remote viewers here. And the idea is that you move very, very quickly. We don't worry about structure at all. You are free as the viewer to deploy any of the tools that you've learned or just make stuff up whenever seems appropriate. You can go straight from stage 1 to stage 4 or straight from stage 1 to stage 6. You can do this. This idea of widening the aperture is a model, and sometimes it's a useful model, but it's not true, right? You can jump straight from an ideogram to having a conversation with something. We've done this against fictional characters. The very first one we did was Doctor Strange, which was really funny. I'd have to dig it out, but I have a lovely sketch of him doing that circly special effects thing that he does. and we were taking questions from the floor once I had target contact. And Josh, who's here tonight, asked, like, what does he think of our magic practice? And I said, he's being like quite condescending. He says, it's very sweet that you're doing something, you know. And then we did Mickey Mouse, who turned out to be like hugely racist and unpleasant, and like one of the most dislikable things. All this is done blind. And we've done humans, we've done Elon Musk, we've done Klaus Schwab, we've done lots of people, and we've done deities. We've had we did Thoth. Some of that data made it onto the Cypher podcast. You can check it out on there. We did Freya, the Norse goddess, who's pretty kick-ass.
David, are you doing this with the galvanized skin response machine? I mean, or whatever that.
No, I'm not. That just inspired it because I realized that I was like beholden to my pen and paper, and thought we should challenge this and break out of it. So when there's no rules to Cowboy RV, right? We've all learned, or most of us will have learned methodologies, and we do ideograms and stage 2s and stage 4s, and we do sketches and we get visuals and we do all this stuff, usually in a structured framework. Cowboy, we don't. What I do when I do it is I draw an ideogram in the air with my finger like this, you know. Oh, there it is. And I can see that in my sort of local mind's eye space. I tend to do it with my eyes closed. I just use the space around me. I guess it's potentially my proprioceptive space. I don't know. But I keep things in there. If I get a life form, I put it over here and then go, oh, hello, why don't you talk to me, life form? And then, you know, something else is over here. How do those relate? But I'm quite a visual kinesthetic person. That works for me. You don't have to do it like that. There are no rules. It's like Taoism, the Tao that can be written down and taught is not the true Tao, you know, because it's like so postmodern. There's just nothing there other than don't write anything down and do whatever you want, right? So it's kind of removing everything, all of the structure, just using the tools and the skills that you've developed. Does anybody have any questions about this?
I thought that was a pretty good explanation. Thank you.
Is this like similar? I mean, this almost sounds like, to me, almost like similar to like what, is this not like how kind of like how Ingo kind of do something like this in the beginning, something similar to this, where you're just kind of openly remote viewing type of thing, or am I mistaken here?
I think what he did was a little bit more similar to ERV or out of body experience, because in one of these Scientology levels that he did, I can't remember, it's one of the higher OT things. The story goes that you're sat in a chair and somebody else is in the room and they're just yelling at you like, go to the moon, go next door, go outside on the street, go upstairs, go to the moon, go to Saturn, blah, blah. And they just like scream at you while you're sat there, and eventually you just leave your body and just do it out of frustration, I guess. I don't know the theory behind it. Oh wow,
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
On the chat. Oh, it was an Ingo one. We actually did Ingo the other night. This methodology works really well for anything you can have a conversation with. And for the longest time, we limited the taskings to that, right? So it could be a fictional character, it could be a historical figure, living person, a dead person, a deity, Mickey Mouse, whatever, but something where you would expect a back and forth. And it works phenomenally well for that. And the other night we did it with Ingo, and some of the guys on the Discord got some remote viewing advice, which was pretty good. I was the viewer on it. Actually, I wasn't the viewer because I wasn't blind. But the data that I was getting was a surprise to me and was actually really interesting stuff. So not remote viewing because I wasn't blind, but exactly the same procedure. And we very rarely do TRNs either. You don't need those. So last century TRNs, like good for admin, not good for anything else.
So the question is, I guess, at some point I mean, we might be getting a bit late into the session today, but does anyone want to try this at some point?
Oh, we're at past. We got half an hour.
Well, yeah. If someone wants to do it, go with your flow kind of thing.
You said there was someone in particular, Daz, on Facebook who'd asked about this.
Well,
He was
Jimmy
on
asked a
target.
question.
Oh, Jimmy?
I think Jimmy's the perfect candidate.
Thanks, Dave. I'll be calling you later. Well, what I just learned, I guess your cowboy method is pretty much Angela Ford's freeform method. It's pretty much anything goes. All the data is just written down. There's no structure really at all, except for the structure is no structure. It's just waiting for the information to pop in.
No, it's not waiting. It is to drive the session yourself. It's not like NRV, just like, oh, whatever comes, comes. You're still in control. But so I would do an ideogram.
I guess I'm
and
misunderstanding it then.
I'll do an ideogram, and like if it's a life form, I'll try and talk to it. If it's something else and I can't work out what it is, I'll do a stage 4 in my head, and I'll literally sit here and draw a T and an I in front of me, and then probe them with my finger, because I like those 2 columns in stage 4 for a quick overview, and I'll just use that as the kinesthetic trigger to release the data, and then based on that data, I'm going to drive the session forward in a different direction. These are also often monitored as well, so the monitor's either going to get bored with all the crap I'm talking and say you're off target, or no, go back to that other thing you mentioned, that's what I'm interested in. So it's not sitting there and doing nothing. All of the tools that I've learned in CRV and TRV and TDS, whatever, I'll use all those tools, but just whenever I feel like it. I won't go through the stages, because you're not writing everything down and you're not constrained by the structure. You can move so fast. You can move faster than the speed of AOL. One other important thing that I know Josh is going to be pissed off with me if I don't mention is the approach to AOL, which is to just roll with it and accept that the subconscious mind likes to present itself, likes to present ideas in a symbolic, metaphorical way, and that's totally okay, and to just go, well, this is how it's presenting itself. Let's just deal with this representation at that level, rather than trying to peel it all back and name the target and work out exactly what it is, because you can still get good data. I did one of these for the podcast recently where there was a main target. Somewhere right at the beginning of the session, the viewer decided that they had the wrong gender, and we just went through the whole session like that, and it didn't matter. The data was all fine and consistent with all the feedback we had. You just ignore it. Go for it.
Let me ask you a question, Dave, real quick. Do you think what part do you think Scientology played in formal structured remote viewing?
Oh, now there's one.
To what degree?
Subjects.
Secrets are coming out.
To be honest,
Well,
I would find that very interesting because I read about a connection between RV and Scientology, and that scared me. Though I know Ingo distanced himself from Scientology, but it's scary so far.
I don't think anything scary from Scientology went into remote viewing. There was a lot of stuff in there which was good, and then it turned into the insane cult that it is today. Oh, I can already hear them picketing outside the house now. I've said that online, but there's good technology in Scientology, and it didn't have all of the negative stuff back in the day, Ningo's day maybe, that it has now. And they still have good tech, like the auditing. There's a civilian version, if you like, a secular version, which is often referred to as clearing, which, that's why I own the skin galvanometer. It's an incredibly powerful therapeutic thing. You can use it to improve your remote viewing as well. I had an issue where whenever I would remote view a bridge or a dam, I would displace onto the suicides and just be like, oh, there's people jumping to their death and I hate it. What the fuck's going on here? And I would miss the bridge and the dam. I would just get hung up on these things. And I used that technique to overcome that, for example. So anything where there's like little bits of repressed trauma or stuff that you're not admitting to yourself or that's in your subconscious, you can use that technique to really efficiently bring it out and neutralize it. It's super powerful. And obviously it's associated with Scientology, so people don't want to consider it, right? But it's not scary, it's brilliant. Scientology did steal it from somebody else, I might add. They didn't come up with it, but it's good tech. Oh, sorry, CRV and Scientology. yes, if you look at the structure of a clearing session, there's structure very much in common with a CRV session. Notice like movements in square brackets, numbered stages, start, stop time, a couple of acronyms. There's little things. I mean, they're aesthetic things rather than methodological things, but you can see that the structure of a CRV session as it's laid out on the page at least was inspired by auditing. And auditing and clearing can sometimes be basically debriefing on repressed memories or stuff you're not really thinking about or digging down into things. So you can see that you could extend the concept of debriefing on a target that you've never seen before. And instead of digging down into your own subconscious, you're digging down into the collective unconscious or the matrix or whatever it is. And you can run that same process against things which are external to you as you can internal. I mean, auditing doesn't involve like the stages of CRV. A lot of that is from other sources or Ingo made it up. But the way it's written down on the page, there's more than a passing similarity.
Thanks, Dave. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just saw the meter and I'm like, oh, I got to ask him.
They're worth getting. Interesting tool.
That's the first time I've heard any of that. That's pretty interesting. Thank you.
Though I just asked myself, where did Scientology get it from? I mean, I know probably L. Ron Hubbard, know Aleister Crowley or some people like that. Did they get from?
I can't remember the name. It was a psychologist or a therapist or something who was looking into this, and it wasn't the guy doing the experiments with plants, I don't think. But it wasn't a kind of magical, mystical place that it came from. It was a psychological, psychoanalytical kind of place that it was absorbed from. And I guess maybe the use of a galvanometer may have come from somewhere else, and Scientology may have fused them together. I'm not sure of the origins, but I know I've read about them in the distant past, and I'm sorry I don't have a reference to it offhand. It is out there somewhere on the internet, though. If you read long enough, you can find it.
Yeah, I just want to speak about the correlations as you just mentioned between Scientology and the various forms of RV and speaking of remote viewing in general, right? Essentially, it seems like there seems to be a certain state or phase states that we access, right? And there was a psychologist and neuroscientist, Michael Persinger. He's done some very interesting brainwave studies, and he essentially says that Ingo is having these 7 hertz spike when he's actually getting some of these data and stuff. So it seems like remote viewing essentially can be described as a phase state that you can kind of anchor, and that's where the neuro-linguistic programming terminologies comes in, and even in HRVG, right? Use a lot of similar not movements per se, but I think similar anchoring mechanisms, right? And there's another very interesting arena where you have the work of Bill Bengston, right? And Bill Bengston has come up with this image cycling process and his healing process and methodologies. And if you actually look at the history, it's very similar to what happened between Ingo and the people in the CIA developing the protocols. So Bill Bengston, when he was young, he had some back pain or something, and he met this random psychic dude. Again, his name was Ben. I think he's written this book called The Energy Cure, and that's where he goes on to describe the entire process and protocol. So so he found this guy who claimed to heal people with his psychic powers, and then he essentially tells him, "Hey, I have my back pain. Can you just heal me?" He just holds his hand around his waist, and it seems like within 5 minutes the pain disappears, and that's where it really started. And he essentially wanted to prove this is Bill Bengston, who is the founder of the methodology, who wanted to prove the psychic wrong, and eventually found out that there is some credibility here, and he comes up with this entire healing mechanism and protocol, right? So I think there is a lot of such similarities that we can pick up, because I'm mentioning Bill Bengtson because it's one of the very well documented psychic or even like a paranormal phenomena protocol, which is which is very rich of scientific history, like 30 years of research on this, where they induce lab rats with a specific strain of cancer cells, and they do this Reiki kind of like an energy healing, and the rats heal, and that's something really phenomenal. And I think there's definitely a lot of overlap between Scientology and how it kind of like has these maybe as we know the states, remote viewing states or healing states or whatever that may be, and the way in which we kind of like anchor these states with certain processes. Because on the other hand, if you also compare a lot of Eastern and Western meditation protocols, right? So when you're actually getting into meditation, most of us think that just closing the eyes and reaching a certain state is meditative. But I think if you actually look at some very interesting traditional practices, you kind of like get attuned to a very interesting protocol, and then after some time you kind of like just let go, right? And something happens to you. You kind of like get into a certain phase state. And I think there's a lot of such similarities across these fields. So I just want to bring attention to that. So yeah, it's definitely a very interesting thing to observe there.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Everything is inspired by everything else. And that raises another little point there about Scientology. The idea that it's a scary and bad thing doesn't mean that there's nothing useful in it. Things can be a manipulative, messed up cult and still have loads of really useful, valid things to teach. So we shouldn't be polarized about these things.
David, I'm not an expert on this, but if I'm correct, the very early versions of the book Dianetics actually had the core of what Ingo and Hao and that we're looking at back then, which is completely different than what Scientology is today. But I would have to say you would have to look at an early version of the Dianetics, but not one that's been published over the last few years.
In other words, they've edited it.
I don't know, but I would, seeing how Scientology has changed over the decades, I would say they probably had done, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's folks in the community that are trying to suppress that information like badly. Like they're scared to death of it getting
association, right? I mean, do you see Hal Puthoff at Irva getting asked about the influence of Scientology? And there's like letters from Ingo going, "Oh, thank you, L. Ron Hubbard, for helping me with your Scientology. It's given me all of my remote viewing powers." And Hal's like, "No, it has nothing to do with it. Absolutely not."
I mean, I could share that document from the Ingo archives actually. That I sent it to David a couple of days ago. I'm just bearing with me a second here because I'm looking on my desktop here. There's a document and a lecture Ingo gave. Where is it? He gave a lecture in 1972 in Prague. It's called The Scientological Techniques, a Modern Paradigm for the Exploration of Consciousness and Psychic Integration. It's basically talking about his Dianetics and Scientology work and how that opened him up for all his later psychic stuff. It's in his archives, but it's not widely known. But I might be able to chat. It's in two papers here. Bear with me a sec. Let me see if I can whack them into the chat channel here for you guys to have a look at. Bear with me.
There's an interview with him as well from
there is, yes,
the 70s or something, and there's just one question about that it's really short. It's like one paragraph, and he says he doesn't think he learned anything from the OT levels in Scientology concerning remote viewing or clairvoyance, I think he says in the interview, but he credits auditing with a huge benefit, which is clearing.
Plus, there was a lot of players that were Scientologists. I mean, it's not just, it wasn't just Ingo. I mean, a lot of the big players were Scientologists. Yeah. I mean,
so that document should be in the chat window for you. So yeah, the document's there if you want to download it there. But as I said, it comes from the Ingo Swan archives. It's not well known. It's very interesting though. As I said, it's a lecture from 1972 given in Prague, and literally a day after he gave that talk, he went straight to the pyramids in Egypt. So yeah, on the cowboy stuff then. So I guess no one's going to be willing to do a session. Maybe we should arrange one for.
We've only got 12 minutes left.
Yeah, maybe we should, like, if someone wants to be the winning subject in it for maybe the next meeting when we meet up, then we can do that, and David or someone can run them through it live.
Yeah. In the meantime, just come on the Discord because we do them quite regularly.
Yeah.
If Daz turns up and he's being annoying, we just do a cowboy session because he comes on to chill out and talk shit after work, and the last thing he wants to hear is remote viewing. And if we start actually doing remote viewing, he just quits and leaves. So
I do, yeah. No offense. Yeah, I like, I think it's great that you're
It's all right,
exploring the
none taken.
cowboy stuff.
No, you're right. It is fucking boring, isn't it? It's really
Yeah,
dull to listen to a remote viewing session. They can go.
I
on
did
for
that
like an
cowboy
hour.
stuff for years.
So
We
dull.
didn't call it remote viewing, of course, but that's essentially the way, doing it the way you're doing it is exactly what you do in the classical psychic stuff that I did for like 20 years. So, the last thing I want to do now is sit there for an hour and listen to someone else going through it, because it's just like, oh, I've done this. And I don't want to listen to it anymore. But I understand that you guys are having a great time exploring it. And it's another tool in the toolbox, because remote viewing is just one of a huge plethora of tools out there. I think
it's a really good
in a
tool
niche.
for taking remote viewing outside into the real world.
Yeah.
Because when you get in the habit of using your remote viewing tools in that really free context, like I'll go for a walk I was doing this last summer when it was really hot, but I didn't want to walk around with my shirt off and look uncouth with my big fat belly hanging out, bump into one of my neighbors when I was out walking the dog. So I would just draw an ideogram for a life form, like a loop, with my finger in the air, and then just sort of grab it and wave it around like a flashlight and be like, oh, is there anybody out there? Nah, I got the place to myself. Let's get my shirt off. And you can do little things like that.
And it's very kinesthetic as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is like, it is what, from those of us that do the formal stages, it is what you're encouraged to, the kind of state and kinesthetic kind of thing you're getting in when you do the stage 6. And what, it's the same kind of stuff that I get when I'm doing on the whiteboard, because that's all body involved in doing the RV session.
Well, the body is the one thing that can talk to the conscious and the subconscious mind at the same time, right? It's a brilliant conduit between the two.
Excellent. Okay, well, we won't do that this time then, but let's put that on the agenda for the next time we do an open kind of chat. We'll arrange one maybe for, I don't know, somewhere near the end of March. I'm just trying to think, when am I on holiday? Yeah, end of March should be fine. And we'll see if we can get a winning subject, Jimmy, to be the one doing the RV, and someone else can set the target, and then we'd all listen in. Pat, Pat, you had your hand up for quite a long time there. Do you want to go with what you want to talk about?
Yeah, because it's quite related to cowboy targets, and this is going back a few years. And essentially, one day I thought, didn't feel right. I thought there's something in the wind. There's something affecting me directly. Let's do a session on it. So it's self-tasking, but I don't know what the target is. I just know there's some event coming up which is going to affect me personally. So I thought, do that. And the data I got was like a doggerel chant, like a Gregorian chant, like a monk chanting words at me. Yeah. Which made no sense at all in English. And I can't remember all of it, but it began just with I, rah, rah, rah. I, rah, rah, rah. I'm like, what the hell did this mean? So I wrote it down, translated it, and it was, I don't speak Latin. And it wasn't just like, other sort of like elements in it, like Anglo-Saxon bits and all sorts, but it's sort of like, there's a bunch of people doing bad stuff. I'm not afraid of it. I'm protected by the tree of life. strange. Doesn't really mean anything. No news events. Now, the next day, there's a big Trollgate gets announced, as in there's Russian troll farms. The Internet Research Agency, IRA, are doing really bad things out there. And I thought, I'm a technology guy. This affects me directly. It does lead you to question your sanity, because the form of the data made no sense to me whatsoever. And an analyst wouldn't have been able to make sense of it either. So, if you like, the session data was gibberish. And made no sense at all until the actual event had happened anyway. So this is why I'm a little bit wary of cowboy sessions. The stuff you get will reveal a lot more about yourself than the actual data will. But that's okay. That's part of exploring. So I'm just putting that out there as sort of like joining the dots up of the conversations. Whereas cowboy is fun. It can produce really profound stuff, but is it really RV? I don't know. I think I'm with you, Daz. I don't go on Discord or chats a lot either and listen to these things because
well, it is RV.
It's a
in that
hobby.
It's within
And it's just not for
protocol.
me.
The viewer's blind, perceptions are recorded, there's a target, and feedback is given. So
Well,
it's crusty, shitty RV, I'll grant you that, but it's still within protocol.
If I get a whiteboard set up, I might give it a go. How's that?
No, you're not
Okay.
allowed a whiteboard, no writing.
Then how do you make a record? I don't know.
Record it or
But
get
you're certainly not going
somebody
to
to
get
write it
visual data doing it, but there you go. Okay, I'm off. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Pat. And the other hand up, because we are running up to 2 hours now. I mean, I don't mind going a little bit over 2 hours if you guys want to, but we're running up to 2 hours now. Simon, you have your hand up for a while. Simon, are you still with us? Is anybody there?
Simon disappeared.
Simon, you're muted.
Sorry, boys. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right on. So I was talking to myself like an idiot. Great. I have a couple of questions regarding signal line. I've been experimenting with moon phases, and I've been experimenting with frequencies regarding whenever I do a session. I'm noticing that a waning moon seems to have a better hit for relative ARV descriptors. My question is, does or do moon phases have anything to do with being able to hit a particular frequency, which allows you to actually tap in to whatever data you're trying to collect? Because I am learning, I am not a remote viewer by any means, but I am an aspiring learning remote viewer. But I'm finding that certain frequencies seem to resonate better with different moon phases. And I just was really curious if any of you have done that, because I'm experimenting, because I'm hunting that signal. I actually really have found some information that really kind of spooks me. And I just want to make sure that I'm on the right track. And just
Simon, when you say frequencies, are you talking about like brainwave states?
Kilohertz, yeah. I'm trying to figure that if like a 400 or a 5 or 6 frequency will actually tap in better during a waning or waxing or even a full moon. I'm finding that those periods, data just comes in a little bit easier and it's more relevant to what I'm trying to.
I got no idea about frequencies, but I did database for a few months, and I found that moon phase did actually affect it, and I totally am not into the moon. I don't want to believe that the moon is going to affect my sessions, right? I want to believe that I can do whatever I want, and I'm not subject to the whim of the things floating about in the sky. But I charted it just to see, and I did find a small effect. It may be a data artifact, because how many sessions did I get in here?
Yeah, but does it have
There's only
more
like
of a
100
fit?
sessions over a couple of months in this.
Does it have more of an effect on you than having acid indigestion?
No, the
Right.
R squared was 10% on the TARG SRI scale, and it was waning moon. It was like halfway through the end of the first quarter. Is that? Yeah.
Right on. It's one of those things that experimenting works for me. I'm simply just looking. That's it. Anything that seems to fit, and I gather as best as I can to figure if it's waning, waxing, full moon, because I'm looking for some kind of relevance to continue doing what I'm doing, and it's more so to make money. That's it.
Guys, can I share my screen? I can show you the chart.
Yeah, it's open to be shared. Yep.
I don't want to share the whole thing because it's huge. Here we go. Right. Where's it gone? Oh, Zoom's made itself on top now.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see your screen.
Yeah. Okay.
That's up there.
Here's the moon phase chart. So
Okay.
0 is a new moon, and 4 is the full moon. This was just like the formula that I used to calculate it from the date of the session. So there's a slight increase on average. Bear in mind, when I collected this data, I was trading, so you can see I'm going like up and then dying, and then going up and dying, and then up and then dying, because my teacher is making targets progressively more hard. So this data is not like clean, steady RV. So it may be that this is an artifact, right? Because just this cluster of hits happened to take place there. This is over. How long is this over? From January to. Wait, are we in US date format here? Why is this switched to a US date?
It's pretty neat.
Anyway, it's like a few months. Don, in answer to your question, I don't pay any attention to the moon. I don't pay any attention to LST. There may be effects there, but I don't want to care about it, because when I tried doing LST, I'm always viewing at 1330 LST, right? And sometimes that's at really bad times of day that are really like the worst time for me to view. And I ended up getting anxiety about like, oh no, it's not 1330 LST. Now I'm going to miss my target. Oh no, it's 1830 LST. No. And like, it made me so much worse on average, because I was like remote viewing at 4 o'clock in the morning and freaking out about the time and always looking at it. And it was just like, I just had to say, stop. I'm going to deliberately not know what time it is LST.
Thank you for that, because I've been wondering about doing that experiment, and you've already done it for me. And,
yeah, I'm going to pass on that too.
Yeah. The one thing that I have that I will comment on.
It may well actually work, right? There may be an effect there.
Some people swear by it, yeah.
Yeah,
but
well,
you know
Brett
what?
found out recently, and he hit 13 ARVs correctly in a row by doing them on 1330.
Quite honestly, for me, getting my body into a state where I don't have agita or acid reflux or whatever is like the most impactful to my remote viewing sessions. I want to have a nice, good experience. So
right on.
There it is.
Right on. Thanks, gents. It's just experimenting. Anything that I could do to rope in a signal would be kind of cool. But anyways, nice seeing you, Jimmy, Daz.
Simon, I don't have much to add on this experience-wise, other than in the Ingo Swann archives in University of West Georgia, there are several files and correspondences between him and Ed May, where he does detail that he's tracking moon phases and he thinks there is an effect on the remote viewing. And I it's not my subject, so I only briefly scanned it. I vaguely remember him saying that there are certain times where he doesn't do it because the moon phase is he thinks is a bit of a problem, and he was heavily into astrology and stuff, so he was a very big believer in all that. But there are documents in those archives. That not many, but there are 2 or 3 that do detail Ingo's thoughts on moon phases and stuff.
All right. Well, right on, gentlemen, ladies, carry on.
Yes, I'm willing to bet you $100 that Ed May doesn't believe in moon phases.
Well, the correspondences were to Ed because they were. I'm going from memory here now. They were during experiments Ingo was doing in the mid 90s on alphanumerics and a few bits and pieces. And I have to be honest, there's some of the no one's really talked about him other than myself and John Knowles. And maybe people don't know that they're there, but some of the insights Ingo had when he was working, and he was working with a person, they were kind of like sending each other the picture, the data. So it was a 2-person deal there. And I vaguely remember reading these documents thinking, holy shit, the things he's talking about here are so important to remote viewing. It's just that they've been bypassed because he was I think they were trying to detail, like Ingo was here in his place and he had someone over the other side of the country, and they had like a word on a sheet of paper in front of them, and he was trying to pick up what the word was or the number. And what they found, or what he found over a period of time, was the noise in the vicinity. And these are my own words on it, my interpretation of what I read. The noise he found out that the noise in the vicinity of that sheet of paper, so the other objects in the room within something like a 4 or 5 foot square radius, hugely impacted how accurate he would get the data. So if there was a lot of general noise and other things in the vicinity, that would massively decrease his accuracy in getting that word and stuff. So that it was all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But again, I'm paraphrasing because I read it. I remember reading it and talking about John Knowles 2 years ago, thinking, holy shit. And I got it in a folder. It's like a folder that says, holy shit, this is really important. But I haven't had time to go back and reread it yet. But it is there in his archives. And that was in the mid-90s. And that was all run with Ed May. He did all these projects for, I think, 5 years with Ed May, trying to nail words and numbers.
Very interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, the noise thing is very interesting. I don't think anyone has ever detailed that the noise in the vicinity of the target massively affects if you're going to get that target, especially when, as I said, the target was a word on a sheet of paper.
Right. Cool.
So by noise, are you talking about like written documents, magazines, that sort of thing?
Just anything, because I think what they were doing, I think, and again, I might be wrong on this. I might be putting more into this than I thought, but I had the feeling that they were both sat on chairs, like I'm sat on a chair here, and I vaguely remember reading that I think the word was on a sheet of paper between the feet of the person on the floor. And when I say noise, I mean the thing, so if I did it here where I'm sat with my computer thing here, I have some cables here, I have a bin, I have the chair legs, all that kind of stuff. So the general noise within that area there became detractors against the actual word on the note of paper. And the more they cleared all that away, so there was nothing in the vicinity.
So we're talking about what is that, electrostatic clothing to try to keep frequencies from hitting your brain, kind of a thing?
No, nothing like that. Just removing every object or everything from within the vicinity of the single sheet of paper with the word on it.
Whoa!
It's reducing noise at the target, not around the viewer.
But Ed May's done other experiments as well. Ed May's done experiments where and they had a huge results on it, but I'm not sure if they did a replication where they increased energy at a target. So they did these targets, and at the same time where they tried to get the viewer to have a look at the data, they actually set an explosion or something off. So by generating huge amounts of energy, it actually pulled the viewer to the target, and because there was more entropy.
Right. Yeah, he has a big thing about that. He's a real believer in that. He actually gave me, if I can find his paperwork he sent me, I'll send it to you. He gave me a bunch of paperwork on that. He believes that the remote viewer, like you just said, was drawn with the amount of energy. That's why all the nuclear sites were always hits. Even from somewhat okay remote viewers, we're still hitting, the nuclear sites and stuff.
And the same with, and that's why we're all probably really good at doing the UFO type targets as well, because the energy there is so different, it's so new, it's so big.
It draws you, right?
Yeah, the entropy. Yeah. Oh, well, I just got to let someone in, but I'm letting someone in just at the moment when we're kind of like rolling up for today. So has anyone got any last things they want to talk or anything? Is there anything you want? We can do the live cowboy thing as an example, but is there anything else you want to do in future? I mean, I had a big list, but we didn't get to go through them because we went through some amazing topics tonight.
Hey, Des, you might want to mention something about the Hellfire website, because like I haven't even seen the movie yet on the latest target, and what's the web address, and what's going on with that.
Okay. I don't even know if I know that off the top of my head myself, and I built it. I think it's it's hellfirerv.com. If anyone wants to go there, in fact, I'll go there now and paste the link.
Did you guys, Daz? Did you do the interview with Whitley already?
We haven't. Whitley's going through a surgery on a foot thing, and hopefully next week or the following week. He's gonna be better, and we will be doing an interview with him. Looking at because he's seen all our data, just comparing it with his real experiences. Yeah.
Oh, I bet he was blown away by that.
He did. He liked a lot of it. He wondered why we didn't pick up on, because in some of his experiences he felt there were military people at his abductions. But I tell you, I sent in the tasking, and the tasking was very, very specific. It was like, only look at the implant and what the implant does, and I tried to tell him, as remote viewers, we train ourselves to only try to do the tasking directive, not go outside of that.
Your intention is, I don't know if that's you or what, but I noticed that the target for you, when you put a clause in your, it boxes me out real well. I'm like, I wonder why I'm not sketching these people or anything. But I could tell after I got the tasking back, it was through your tasking.
Yeah,
I had military people in mind. Yeah,
a couple of people did on the outskirts. Yeah. But I don't think we like in depth followed it as a direction. Do you know what I mean? We did kind of stay focused around the implant and the abduction experiences itself. But on the intent thing, I even write on my newest targets what my intent is. So I say, okay, my intent is for the viewer to do this because this is my belief on it, or I like to get that down as well, because we are essentially scoring each other's RV sessions based on our, if we're the tasker, based on our belief system than what's in our head, really. So the better we get that down on paper, the more accurate we can score it, I think. Any last things you guys want to talk about? But so next time, let's do this in a few at the end of the month again. We'll do another open one. I've got some interviews kind of half lined up that I'm hoping will come off. I've been trying for a long time to get David Morehouse, and he said that he would come along and do something, but I haven't heard from him from a couple of weeks, so it's gone a bit cold on that. I'll try to arrange that. But I have got some questions here. I'll put them in a Facebook post. And if you guys got any more that you want us to properly discuss, things like things that you guys want as a community, because you guys are the RV community, let's discuss and see if we can get these things up and running for you guys. So I'll put that all on Facebook for those of you that are in the Facebook channel, and you can see that. But if you've got nothing else for today, we'll wrap it up for today.
Well, actually, I have a topic. One day I would like to talk about the relation between RV and megalomania and narcissism. I mean, I've experienced some remote viewers who were really influenced negatively in their personality by doing remote viewing. I think it's something which is not for everyone.
Absolutely. Yep.
It
we
has
can definitely talk about that, because there is a quite a big history of people having personality disorders and going a bit off on a tangent from learning RV, because it's not for everyone. Absolutely. And in fact, Henny and Dimmy and a few of the people that I mentor know this, that I ask people if they ever had any mental kind of illnesses in the past and get them to sign a waiver before I take on any training. But yeah, that's been a great chat, guys. Thanks for all the stuff tonight. And sorry for you, Rich, you came a bit late, but we will put this online so you can see it in total. Great questions and great comments and sharing all your stuff tonight, guys. It's been a real smorgasbord of all different types of topics tonight. So well done on that.
All right, take care, guys.
Have a great weekend, guys. And we'll do this again in a couple of weeks.
Good seeing everyone.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Thanks, you guys. See you later.
Ciao, everyone.
Hmm.